Picture this. It is 1979. A researcher named Alexander Schaus brings 153 young, really physically fit men into this brightly lit laboratory.
Right, these are strong guys, like serious athletes.
Exactly. And Schaus asks them to do one simple thing. Just stand there and stare at a large piece of bright bubblegum pink cardboard for exactly 1 minute.
Which sounds completely ridiculous.
It really does. But after 60 seconds, he tests their arm strength by, pushing down on their extended arms. And almost universally, these perfectly healthy, muscular men are suddenly just drained of their physical power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can barely resist the downward pressure. Just from looking at a specific shade of pink, their physical strength just evaporates.
Yeah, it's wild.
So welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to pull back the curtain on the invisible forces that secretly dictate our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. And we're using Anna Malter's fascinating book, Drunk Tank Pink, as our guide today.
And that Alexander Schaus experiment is such a perfect starting point because it shatters this illusion of total self-control. I mean, we all want to believe our actions are strictly the product of our conscious, rational minds.
Oh, absolutely. We like to think we're driving the bus.
Exactly. But Schaus proved that something as silent and, well, passive as a color on a wall can literally bypass your conscious brain and turn off your physical strength. And the real-world ripple effect of that discovery was just staggering.
Yeah, the Navy got involved, didn't they?
They did. That specific hue actually became known as Baker-Miller pink, named after two commanding officers at a naval correctional center. They heard about the study and just decided to paint their military holding cells that exact color.
And the results were pretty immediate.
Oh, immediate and profound. Like, new, highly aggressive inmates would be thrown into this pink cell, and within 15 minutes, they were completely pacified.
That is crazy.
It was acting as a literal physical tranquilizer. So the trend swept the nation. County jails started putting violent, intoxicated people into these rooms, which is how it earned the nickname Drunk Tank Pink.
Right.
But it bled out of the prison system, too. Like, charity workers began wearing pink uniforms and saw their donations double, sometimes even triple.
Wow.
You even had college football coaches, I think, at the University of Iowa, painting the visitors' locker rooms pink.
Which is just brilliant, honestly, and deeply devious. I mean, you invite the opposing team into your stadium, lock them in a pink room for an hour, and physically sap their strength before they even step on the field.
It is a massive competitive advantage.
But, while environmental cues like pink walls are powerful, the book reveals they're just the outermost layer of influence. The sources we're looking at today show that there are far more insidious, hidden cues embedded deeply in our minds.
Yeah, it goes way beyond room color.
So let's start with the most intimate cue, the one attached to you from the literal moment you are born, your name. Okay, let's unpack this. Think of your name as a social algorithm.
Ooh, I like that term.
It is, right. It's a program that runs quietly in the background of your life, sorting your opportunities and shaping your personality long before you even show up in a room.
Calling it a social algorithm is incredibly accurate. I mean, psychologists refer to this as nominative determinism.
Okay, what does that actually mean in practice?
It is basically the idea that your name seemingly drives your destiny. Nudging you toward certain professions or behaviors. Like, the fastest runner in the world over the 100-meter dash is literally named Usain Bolt.
Bolt, right. You can't make that up.
You really can't. Or in the medical field, you have prominent urology experts, famously named Dr. Splat and Dr. Whedon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Even Carl Jung, one of the most famous psychiatrists in history, he had this moment of profound realization that his last name meant young in German.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and he felt this perfectly aligned with his lifelong clinical obsession with the concepts of youth, rebirth, and the human psyche.
Now, I have to assume the letters themselves don't possess some sort of, magical magnetic property that drags you toward a specific career?
No.
Yes?
No. There is no mathematical imperative in the letters. The power of a name comes entirely from the baggage of social association.
Right, the stuff we attach to it.
Exactly. We subconsciously attach socioeconomic status, race, age, education level, all to names without even realizing we are doing it. A name is basically a compressed file of cultural assumptions.
Which perfectly explains this extreme example from the book. So there were these Russian parents who were so terrified of the historical and social baggage attached to traditional names that they decided to give their son a completely blank slate.
Oh, the acronym name.
Yes, they named him BOHDVF260602.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Right. They call him Bach for short, but it is literally an acronym of their names and his birth date. They wanted him to exist outside that algorithm.
You can totally understand their fear, though, especially when you look at the empirical data on how these algorithms sort people. Like, consider the famous resume study conducted across Boston and Chicago.
That one is rough.
It is. Researchers sent out thousands of identical resumes to employers. The work history, the education, the skills, they were all perfectly matched. The only difference was the name at the top of the page.
And what happened?
Well, resumes with white-sounding names like Emily or Greg received 50% more callbacks than the exact same resumes with black-sounding names like Lakeisha or Jamal.
50%. That is a massive difference.
Huge. And the employers weren't even necessarily making conscious, malicious choices. The social algorithm of the name was just doing the sorting in their subconscious before the actual qualifications were even processed.
That is a really harsh reality to confront, but the data shows it actually goes beyond how others judge us, right? Like, our names actually affect how we act and what we value.
Yeah, humans possess this deep subconscious love for ourselves, and that bleeds into the letters that represent us. Psychologists call it the name letter effect.
Right, like with the Hurricane Katrina study.
Exactly. When researchers looked at donation records after Katrina, they found this massive statistical anomaly. People whose names started with the letter K were 150% more likely to donate to the relief efforts compared to their usual habits.
Wait, just because of the letter K?
Yep. And it wasn't just people named Katrina, it was Kevins, Catherines, Kyles. The brain sees its own initial, feels a spike of, like, implicit egotism and warmth, and just opens the wallet.
That is so strange. And that subconscious nudging extends to your last name, too, specifically where it falls in the alphabet.
Oh, the last name effect. This one is fascinating.
So if you have a last name near the end of the alphabet, say N through Z, you have basically spent your entire childhood waiting at the back of the line. Roll call, graduation, lunch lines, you were always last.
Right, you get used to waiting.
Exactly. But because of that lifelong habit of waiting, researchers found that these individuals develop a subconscious scarcity mindset. So as adults, they respond significantly faster to limited opportunities.
Like sales or promotions.
Yeah. When a retailer offers a limited time sale or researchers offer free basketball tickets, the Zimmers and the Smiths scramble to claim them much faster than the Adams or the Browns. The childhood waiting creates an adult sense of urgency.
So the very first letter of your last name is literally dictating your consumer behavior 30 years later. That's wild. But there is another mechanism at play here with names, too. Fluency.
Fluency, like how easy it is to say.
Exactly. Cognitive fluency is a massive driver of human behavior.
Yeah.
The human brain is inherently kind of lazy. It loves things that are easy to process.
Makes sense.
When something is easy to read or say, the brain experiences a tiny burst of cognitive ease, and it misinterprets that ease as familiarity and trust.
And
The research shows that lawyers with easy-to-pronounce, highly fluent names are actually 8% more likely to make partner mid-career compared to peers with difficult-to-pronounce names.
wow.
And to be clear, this is not just about foreign-sounding names. The effect holds true even when comparing typical Anglo-American names against each other. The easier the brain can say it, the more the brain trusts the person.
And that biological glitch in our brains even dictates billions of dollars in the stock market.
Oh, the ticker symbols.
Yes,
Yeah.
newly listed stocks with pronounceable ticker codes like GOG for Google massively outperform unpronounceable ones like RSH for Radio Shack in their first days of trading.
So they're choosing stocks based on how they sound.
Subconsciously, yes. Investors are looking at complex financial data, but their subconscious is conflating a fluent, easy-to-say ticker symbol with a safe, low-risk investment.
It really highlights how deeply our brains process the mere sound of words. There's a classic psychological test demonstrating this. People are shown two shapes on a piece of paper. One shape is smooth, rounded, and curvy. The other is sharp, jagged, and spiky.
Oh, yeah.
The participants are given two made-up words, maluma and takete, and asked to assign one word to each shape. Universally across Entirely different languages and cultures. Humans assign maluma to the curvy shape and tekate to the jagged shape.
That is wild.
Yeah, the soft M and L sounds feel physically round to our brains, while the hard T and K sounds feel sharp.
So sounds themselves carry an intrinsic physical weight.
Well, if personal names and sounds shape our individual paths so dramatically, what happens when we scale that up? If a name is a tag we put on a person, a label is a tag we use to categorize the entire universe.
Right, moving from names to labels.
Exactly. We are moving from how we are judged by our personal titles to how language itself literally alters human perception.
This is where we see the brain demanding boundaries in order to function at all. Think about Isaac Newton.
Okay, the Apple guy. Right, but with optics. He looked at a continuous, infinite spectrum of light refracting through a prism, a rainbow. The colors blend into one another endlessly. But the human brain cannot easily process infinity. So Newton slapped 7 labels on it: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Just carved it up.
Yes, by giving them names, he created distinct borders where none naturally existed.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Are we just being lazy thinkers by relying on these categories, or is the human brain literally incapable of processing a complex reality without slapping a label on it first?
The data strongly suggest we actually need the labels to see the world clearly.
Really?
Yeah, a modern study proved this by comparing Russian and English speakers. In English, we have one primary word for blue. In Russian, they do not have a single overarching word. They have goluboy for light blue and sini for dark blue.
Oh, so they are treated as completely separate color categories.
Exactly, just as distinct as red and pink are to us.
So how does that actually change their physical perception?
Well, when researchers put participants in brain scanners and asked them to differentiate between shades of blue, Russian speakers physically process and identify the different shades faster than English speakers do.
Just because they have a word for it.
Because they have a specific linguistic label for the shade, their visual cortex is actually trained to spot the boundary quicker. The label sharpens their biological vision.
Wow. And if a word can change how our eyes process a color, it absolutely changes how we process other human beings, like with the racially ambiguous face study.
Oh, that one is so revealing.
Right. So college students were shown a photograph of a man whose racial background was not immediately obvious. Half of the students were explicitly told the man was white. The other half were told he was black.
And then they had to draw him, right?
Yes. Later, the students were asked to draw the face from memory, and the visual reconstruction was entirely dictated by the word they heard.
Just from the label.
Exactly. The students given the black label physically drew the man with exaggerated black features and remembered his skin tone as visibly darker than the group given the white label. They were looking at the exact same photograph. The single word completely rewrote their visual memory.
The label acts as an interpretive filter, and we use those filters to evaluate abstract concepts like intellect too. Which brings us to the famous Hannah study.
Oh, this one is tough.
Yeah. Princeton students were shown a video of a little girl, Hannah, taking an academic test. Her performance in the video was intentionally designed to be ambiguous. Like she answered some difficult questions perfectly, but stumbled on a few really easy ones.
Okay.
But before watching her take the test, the students were primed with the label. Half the students saw brief footage of Hannah playing in a wealthy, affluent environment. The other half saw her in a rundown, impoverished environment.
So they are armed with the labels of wealthy versus working class before they ever see her academic abilities.
And those socioeconomic labels became the ultimate cognitive tiebreakers. The human brain seeks confirmation of what it already believes.
Right, confirmation bias.
Exactly. The students who thought she was wealthy watched her test and focused entirely on the hard questions she got right. They viewed her ambiguous performance as proof of high intelligence, completely excusing her mistakes.
And the other group?
The students who thought she was working class watched the exact same video, focused on her mistakes, and concluded she was struggling and academically deficient. The label determined her intellect, not her actual performance.
Here is where it gets really interesting, because these linguistic labels dictate more than just social judgments. They construct our fundamental reality of space and time.
Yes, the anthropological stuff.
Right. Anthropologists spent time with the Gugu Yumasura people in Australia. Their language does not contain words for left or right. They only use absolute cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west.
Which is hard to even wrap your head around.
I know. They don't say, watch out for the ant on your left foot. They say, watch out for the ant just north of your foot.
Think about the mental overhead that requires, though. To speak their language, you must possess an absolute constant sense of space at all times, no matter where you are or what direction you are facing.
And because their language demands it, their brains simply adapt to always know true north. But it goes even further. Not far from them, the Pormpura people view time itself as moving from east to west, following the path of the sun.
Okay, so time is tied to geography.
Yes. Researchers gave them a stack of photographs showing a person aging from a baby to an old man and asked them to arrange the photos in chronological order. An English speaker will almost always arrange them left to right because that is how we read our language.
But for the Pormpura, their physical orientation in space dictates their perception of time.
Exactly. If they are facing north, they will arrange the photos right to left because east is on their right. But if you have them physically turn around and face south, they will instantly arrange the exact same timeline left to right because east is now on their left.
That is just incredible.
The labels in their language physically anchor time to the geography of the Earth.
It is a stunning example of language building reality. But we do have to acknowledge the dark side of this mechanism too. If labels can construct reality, they can also fabricate false realities.
Oh, absolutely.
The psychologist Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated this brilliantly by showing people a video of a multi-car crash. When she asked viewers to estimate the speed of the vehicles when they quote-unquote hit each other, the estimates were moderate.
Okay.
But for another group, she changed a single descriptive label. She asked how fast the cars were going when they smashed into each other.
Smashed, a far more violent label.
And the results were alarming. Not only did the speed estimate skyrocket, but viewers in the smashed group falsely remembered seeing broken glass on the road. There was no broken glass in the video.
Wow.
The violent label actually went into their brains and rewrote the episodic memory of the event.
The label literally overwrites the truth. That same self-fulfilling prophecy was at the center of the Dartmouth fake scar study, actually.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, researchers used theatrical makeup to paint a nasty, ugly scar on the faces of several students. They told the students they were going to go into another room and have a conversation with a stranger to see how facial disfigurement impacts social interaction.
Right.
So the students felt incredibly self-conscious. But right before they left the room, the researcher said, "Let me just touch up the makeup real quick," and secretly wiped the scar completely off.
So the students walked into the social interaction with perfectly clear faces, but they still carried the internal label of being disfigured.
And that internal label did all the damage. The students were so paranoid about being stared at that their anxiety skyrocketed. They acted defensively, they were awkward, and the social interactions completely derailed.
And they blamed the other person, right?
Yep. Afterwards, the students reported that the stranger was rude and kept staring at their scar. The reality was, the stranger was just reacting to a highly anxious, defensive person. The label of disfigured manufactured a social disaster all on its own.
It is a major cautionary tale, especially when we look at the medical and psychiatric fields. We rely on diagnostic labels to treat people. But historically, Kajal labels like hysteria were weaponized to dismiss a massive variety of symptoms in women, leading to decades of horrible mistreatment.
That's a great point.
And today, we must apply incredible precision with broad labels like ADHD or borderline personality disorder. The moment a patient receives a heavy psychological label, both the patient and the physician might start filtering every normal, messy human emotion through the lens of a pathology. The label can sometimes accidentally dictate the severity of the symptom.
And even our physical bodies are susceptible to entirely arbitrary labels. Look at the QWERTY effect.
Oh, the keyboard thing.
Yeah, because of how the standard keyboard was designed in the 1870s, we type certain words entirely with our left hand, like the word wart. We type other words entirely with our right hand, like the word punk.
Okay.
Because the vast majority of the population is right-handed, studies show we actually subconsciously prefer right-hand words over left-hand words. The brain slaps a motor fluency label on the word based on how easy it is to type, and that translates into a slight positive bias for the word itself.
Which perfectly sets up our final layer of the deep dive today. We have explored spoken words, written names, and linguistic labels. But what happens when you bypass the language centers of the brain entirely? You enter the realm of symbols.
Right.
Symbols do not require translation. They are purely visual cues that hit the subconscious instantly.
I like to think of symbols as mental zip files. You are walking down the street, A single tiny graphic flashes in your peripheral vision, and in a millisecond, it unpacks a massive amount of behavioral, historical, and emotional data straight into your nervous system.
That analogy captures the speed perfectly. And the crucial thing to understand about symbols is that they possess zero inherent meaning. A circle is just a circle. A cross is just two intersecting lines. A symbol only contains the meaning we collectively and magnetically attach to it over time.
The most jarring example of this is the U.S. Naval Base in Coronado, California. In the late 1960s, the Navy built a large barracks complex. From the ground, walking through the courtyard, it looks like a standard arrangement of rectangular buildings.
But from the air.
But when you look at it from the sky, the complex is shaped exactly like a massive swastika.
Yeah, when aerial photographs eventually reached the public, the outrage was deafening. The Navy had to allocate hundreds of thousands of dollars for landscaping and structural camouflage to hide the shape from the air.
Just to cover it up.
Right. But what is fascinating from a psychological standpoint is how that specific geometric arrangement became universally toxic. In ancient Sanskrit, that exact shape translates to lucky or auspicious. For the Cunayala people of Panama, it represented the octopus creator of the world.
Wow.
But because the Nazi Party co-opted it in the 20th century, that shape is now a permanent, corrupted mental zip file. It instantly unpacks feelings of hate, trauma, and aggression.
And that data unpacks incredibly fast, even if you do not consciously register seeing the symbol. Subliminal priming is a very real, very measurable phenomenon.
The tech logo study.
Exactly. Researchers brought students into a lab to take a creative thinking test, specifically the unusual uses test, where you have to brainstorm as many creative uses for a standard brick or paperclip as possible.
Okay.
While the students were taking the test, the researchers flashed the Apple corporate logo on the screen for just a fraction of a second. It was so fast the conscious mind could not even register it.
But the subconscious caught it. And Apple's logo is deeply intertwined with a specific cultural narrative: creativity, innovation, thinking differently.
Right. And because that zip file unpacked in their subconscious, the students who are subliminally flashed with the Apple logo actually performed significantly better, generating more creative ideas than a control group of students who were flashed with the IBM logo.
That is wild.
IBM's symbol historically represents compliance, structure, and tradition. The symbol nudged their cognitive abilities in real time.
We see that same mechanism in the light bulb effect, too. Researchers gave students a notoriously difficult lateral thinking puzzle known as the 9-dot problem.
Okay.
For half the students, the researchers simply turned on a bare illuminated light bulb in the room while they worked. In our culture, a glowing light bulb is the universal symbol for sudden insight, the aha moment.
Right, like a cartoon idea bubble.
Exactly. Just having that symbol illuminated in the periphery of their vision caused a massive, measurable spike in the student's ability to solve the puzzle. The brain associated the symbol with insight, and that triggered actual cognitive insight.
So what does this all mean? We are essentially walking antennas, constantly picking up signals and modifying our behavior without realizing it. Which brings us to the ultimate super symbol, the most powerful mental zip file in human history: currency, money.
Money is the perfect symbol because the paper itself is entirely worthless. It only matters because of what it represents.
Let's look at how viscerally our bodies react to it. Back in 1994, there was an anarchist British pop duo called the KLF. They'd made a fortune in the music industry. They took £1 million of their own royalty money in cash, went to an abandoned boathouse in Scotland, and systematically burned all of it in a bonfire.
Which hurts just thinking about it.
Right. A freelance journalist who was invited to watch the burning described feeling deeply physically sick. He was agitated and nauseous watching the paper turn to ash.
Modern neuroscience explains exactly why he felt sick. When researchers put people in an fMRI machine and scan their brains while they watch money being destroyed, a very specific area lights up: the temporoparietal network.
What does that part of the brain do?
This is the exact same region of the brain that processes the use of physical tools, like a hammer, a knife, or a screwdriver. Our brains do not process money as an abstract concept of wealth. We subconsciously treat it as a crucial, functional tool for physical survival. Seeing it destroyed triggers visceral biological distress.
And the symbol of money is so deeply embedded in our survival instincts that just having it nearby changes our personality.
Oh, the Monopoly study.
Yes. Researchers conducted an experiment where they placed a stack of fake Monopoly money on a desk near students who were trying to solve a puzzle. It was an impossible puzzle, designed to see how long they would try before giving up and asking for help.
And the money changed their behavior.
Completely. The students who had the fake money sitting in their peripheral vision worked significantly longer and were much more reluctant to ask for help compared to students with a clean desk. The mere symbol of money subconsciously unpacked feelings of self-reliance and independence into their brains. They felt they didn't need anyone else.
When we pull all of these threads together, from the pink walls of a naval drunk tank, to the specific letters of the name your parents gave you, to the linguistic labels we use to carve up the universe, all the way to the corporate symbols flashing across our screens, the grand synthesis here is a profound awareness of your own subjectivity. You are not operating in a vacuum. You are not fully objective.
Every single day, your decisions, your moods, and your judgments are being subtly nudged and directed by the fluency of a stock ticker, the phrasing of a news report, or the logo printed on the coffee cup sitting on your desk. Speaking of which, take a second right now. Look around your immediate environment. What symbols are sitting on your desk or your walls? What cultural labels are you casually applying to your colleagues in your head? Your environment is steering your ship.
And that realization leaves us with a rather profound puzzle to chew on. We explored how the Russian language allows people to biologically perceive colors that English speakers struggle to differentiate. We saw how Aboriginal languages allow people to map time directly into physical geography. That means our current reality is strictly confined by the words and symbols we currently possess.
The boundaries of our language are the literal boundaries of our world.
Precisely. So as humanity races forward into the future, whether that means encountering highly advanced artificial intelligence, uncovering new dimensions in quantum physics, or making unfathomable cosmic discoveries, what happens when we collide with a reality for which we literally have no labels and no symbols yet? Will our brains even be capable of perceiving it? Or will we be entirely blind to it, stumbling in the dark, until we finally invent a name for it?
It makes you wonder what we are currently failing to see, simply because we don't have the word for it yet. Maybe we are all just staring at a piece of pink cardboard, entirely at the mercy of forces we haven't learned to name. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.